So, first and foremost, I have not researched this subject at all. Someone please fill me in if I'm completely off base or missing something crucial. And surely I can't be the only person who thinks of this, right? It's crazy to me. So, presidential pardons, right? The United States president, to my understanding, has it within him the power to pardon convicted criminals and expunge their record, or essentially let them walk free. Am I wrong? Is there nuances I don't know about? Maybe there is. Maybe there is. Particularly for someone who's already exercised their rights to the fullest and been declined. Maybe that's a factor. So what I'm wondering is, you have a lot, relatively speaking. One is way too many. Convicted first-degree homicide perpetrators locked up who either pled guilty, perhaps via coercion, knowing they were going to lose the case and the plea deal being the only thing that keeps them alive, or there's lots of reasons that someone might plead guilty to something that they are not guilty of. You also have a lot who maintain innocence perpetually, decades later, all that, even on their dwindling moments at the electric chair, right? So, obviously, there's people who are not innocent who claim innocence for a variety of reasons, I'm sure. So, ones who maintain innocence or pled guilty that later irrefutable evidence arises, DNA evidence that wasn't able to be tested sufficiently at the time they were locked up, whatever the case may be. Hell, video footage might arise of the actual crime and commission, and you see that the perpetrator is not them. Any scenario you can think of, right? Someone is locked up, likely for a long-ass time, for a crime they did not commit. They have a limit to their parole hearings, and the facility or faculty in place for which they can attempt to have the decision overruled or have their freedom taken back, right? And when they've used that up or exhausted that prior to evidence arising that compellingly or conclusively determines without or beyond reasonable doubt that they are in fact innocent, and it doesn't matter. It's too late. They're just shit out of luck, right? What? And the thought that just crossed my mind now is, if they're not simply ruled out, but someone else is found conclusively or highly compellingly guilty, let's say they're caught on camera, right? Video footage determined to be authentic surfaces, in which you can actually witness the homicide taking place, right? And the person locked up, who's maintained innocence for 35 years, is not the one who who committed it. And they can identify beyond reasonable doubt the person who did commit it. But the person who's locked up can't be freed based on technicalities. I should have researched this, and I don't know how I didn't deeper question this aspect of it, but what the hell happens to the person who's caught on camera in commission of the murder? Do they just get a free pass because someone's already convicted? Surely they can't go to trial. Like, yeah, you're under arrest for the single or solo acting homicide that someone else is already serving time for and will continue to do so. How does that work? Okay, well, off that. So, I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. Presidential pardons. Why do any people in that circumstance find themselves stuck in it? I get it, right? Red tape, rules, amendments, complex rules, multiple departments, overlapping rules. Okay. The Wild West is the 1998. The internet. The Wild West of the internet. The late 1800s. Gold. Wild West. Things have their time to breathe with minimal regulation. Okay? That makes sense. I start a private corporation and I have a workforce of 8,000 people. What's going to trend forward in time? Evolution and deepening of policies, right? Including interdepartmental policies. Like, I feel like an idiot talking about something so insignificant in the context of this conversation, but break policies, right? You're pretty lax. It's not micromanaged. No punching in and punching out, right? Now, I'm not saying that you can't run a company and maintain it that way. But in many cases, you could start that way and you give someone an inch and they take a mile. You give 8,000 people 8,000 inches and they take 1,500, 400 miles. You're going to have abuse of freedom, which is met with deepening restrictions, which is met with some people being punished for the actions of some others. You're going to find situations where intricacies, loopholes, exploitable aspects of something are treat it just that way, being exploited by someone. All of a sudden, well, shit, we gotta patch this, right? It sucks, but we didn't even consider this. That could be taken advantage of. And maybe one or two people did consider it, but chose, no, that's unethical. But the moment that someone takes advantage of it or exploits it, and it's detrimental to the company, you have to patch it. This leads to logical fallacies. Sorry, I think I'm using that phrase differently than intended. Okay, well, this leads to ridiculous situations. It's like where I work, as short as I can try to explain it that makes any semblance of sense, we would have two teams of employees. So you have Team A and Team B, and their workload or workloads are independent amongst multiple employees on both sides. The workspace, everything else, infrastructure is more or less set to equally weight or accommodate both teams that work together but separate. Now, you would have, in this case, patients. It's in the healthcare world. You would have a new patient being admitted, and they would go to one or the other team. And there's no difference between what the two teams can accommodate as far as needs. They're equal, let's say. So at that point, a decision has to be made. Which team are they admitted to? Well, you could use your discretion. One of the issues with that, unfortunately, is it invites, it's gray. If there's not a concrete rule set in policy, it's a gray area. There's scenarios where human discretion is needed because the hardline rules can't be set out to account for every fathomable scenario possible, right? But when your approach is to leave it fully to discretion, unfortunately, you invite human error, biases, politics, or the person making the decision does everything right, but you have one person or this whole side or that side bickering or contesting it based on grounds of this and that. So sometimes it's easier to just instill the rule. In our case, at this point in time, a software program that analyzed the intensity of responsibility and workload between the two teams independently. It took those weighted probabilities and based on that weighting randomized where the patient would go. So you could have a situation where one team ended up in a position at some point in time where they were much more heavily encumbered than the other team. Now, this team is far lighter at this point in time, right? Someone new is coming. Human discretion says they go here. That randomized program that weights probabilities based on intensity or workload would be greatly weighted to allocate them to this side. But there is a finite probability that they will go to the side that is absurd and ridiculous in this situation. Hit that button, allocate the absurd side. Now you have to ask yourself at this point, so we're smart enough to create this software to generate this decision, but we're too stupid to not go against a terrible suggestion because a computer told us it's what to do. All right, sorry, for all that tangent, I'm gonna trace back to the core topic here, right? So, I get it, right? Law enforcement, the prison system, homicide treatment, you can't just throw the book out. Hey, let's do this, let's do that, case by case basis. It can't be done, right? You are going to have a million different policies and the depth and refinement and additions of nuances to such codes strengthens the safety and accuracy of the system, but it also increases the probability of overlapping, conflicting situations that are ludicrous. Given that you have any number of infinite possible scenarios that can't possibly be accounted for ahead of time as first. I believe that having someone in that position where they are serving time and can't be freed even though they're proven innocent, I believe that I can understand why and how that takes place once that Wild West institutional period has passed. I get it. Why, is my question, cannot the President of the United States go through a log? Here's a compilation of every wrongfully imprisoned, confirmed perpetrator. Pardon them all. Use government money, wipe their criminal record or pertinent criminal record, use government money, set them up in public housing or some other living opportunity, give them money to help them get onto their feet, help them or pay for furthering education depending on their age and goals and what they want to do. If they're retirement age, provide them a pension. Make it right. Some of these people are better off staying locked up, even when they're innocent, for God's sakes. Make things right. Has this been happening that I don't know of? I don't think it has. How and why? Is there a reason that I don't know of? And why isn't it being campaigned to be stopped? Look, I get it. There's It's a dangerous way to phrase it. There's more important priorities. And shit moves slow, particularly when you have a house with a mix and not unilateral. But it is insane that it can't be an addressable need. What is the cause for this? Like, is it... What is the cause? For this to not be done? Is it a matter of people's ego? Not wanting to eat crow? Is that it? Because if that's it, I'll tell you who the real criminals are. There have been cases of people who have been freed and were still eligible for that, and they were made horrendous victims on their way out of the system. It's disgusting. They were intentionally violated. They were intentionally sabotaged. They were dumped out on the street with no identification and no way to get anywhere. Nothing and no one. Man. There is a lot of important things that should and need to be high priority that affect many more people. Agreed. There's limited resources, limited time, flaws in most or all government systems, flaws in allocation of resources and time, flaws in institutional prison systems, private. I get all that. But tell me that when someone is considered proven innocent and they're locked up for the rest of their natural life for a crime that they did not commit, 20 years deep at this point in time, and it's decided due to red tape that they are ineligible to ever go home a free individual. Tell me why, if a president yields pardon power indiscriminately, they are not pardoned. Someone please fill me in if I'm missing this, because it is insane to me that these situations can continue when there seems to be, to my understanding, a clear-cut solution. And if there is not a clear-cut solution, it is insane to me that one isn't made. You can take this strict as hell. You don't need to leave any gray area. You could literally leave this to where someone is caught on camera committing a crime. You could get so strict with this, as horrible as it is and shouldn't be that strict, to where the majority of cases where someone is shown to be innocent and can't get free continues to be locked up. But you can't give me a reason why someone who is legally determined 100% innocent beyond any shadow of a doubt can never be sent home free, and why he is not given the fullest support of public and government assistance, getting employment, getting a living situation, getting reparations. That individual should be living the utmost comfort and supported life, free psychiatric help if they so feel inclined, perhaps even one mandatory session with a psychiatrist just to get a gauge, maybe include that in the conditions of their release, and then enable them after a lengthy conversation to have the choice. But it blows my mind that this scenario can take place, become known, and last. And if the only thing holding it back is ego, I really hate the ethical ramifications of some people's ego overriding their moral compass. Shame on you.